Also head over to brightsideben.com. We have a link, a join the team link that you can click on. Somebody will get back to you with information about joining the longevity team. You can also purchase any products that you hear advertised or recommended on the Bright Side at brightsideben.com. Just pull down on the shopping cart. Make sure you take a specially long look at the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, now Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0, with prebiotics, probiotics, GMO-free. It's liquid nutrition at its finest. It's densely packed with nutrients. For most folks, you'll notice results like lower blood pressure, losing weight, appetite suppression, feeling better, more energy within 1 or 2 doses. And I've been seeing these kinds of results for 17 years since I started working with the longevity company since 1997. So if you're like most folks, for a one-time, for a $50 or maybe a little more, $55 or so a canister, you can lower your blood pressure, feel better, reduce your intake of prescription drugs, lose weight, just a general all-around health tonic. It's called Beyond Tangy Tangerine, and you can find it on brightsideben.com by pulling down on the shopping cart, along with all the other fine longevity products, including the BioLumin Nightly Essence Probiotic. And speaking of probiotics, tomorrow we're going to be talking to Jordan Rubin, who is the author of The Maker's Diet, now the Maker's Diet Workbook. I've been following Jordan's work for many years. I'm very excited to have him on tomorrow. Some of you may know that Jordan Rubin's company Beyond Organics has been acquired by the longevity company, and now we will be selling some of these really neat products that Jordan has developed. Jordan actually raises his own cattle, breeds his own cattle that produce milk that doesn't contain allergenic proteins, and cheese that doesn't contain allergenic proteins. He's also got a line of fermented products, and we're going to be talking to Jordan about all his products, as well as his ideas and theories about gut health. Jordan is a brilliant man. I'm very excited about, number one, our interview tomorrow with Jordan, but also about being able to sell and recommend his products, the Beyond Organic line of products. You can check them out if you want to ahead of time at beyondorganics.com, and we'll be talking to Jordan, as I say, tomorrow. Okay, thanks so much for joining us on the Bright Side once again. We are talking about the cell membrane and the outside part of a cell, as it regards cell chemistry and fats. Last program, we talked about how the cell membrane is the brain of a cell, and it's made up of fats. The shape of the cell membrane is maintained via the crystal properties of that very demonized molecule, cholesterol. And I don't want to beat up on statin drugs and the silly cholesterol theory of heart disease, this ludicrous idea that you can somehow shut down cholesterol manufacturing artificially, pharmacologically, chemically, by poisoning the cholesterol manufacturing system and somehow be healthier for it. This is just an asinine, crazy idea that you can somehow get healthier by poisoning cholesterol manufacturing. Yes, poisoning the production of cholesterol manufacturing. It is one of the stupidest ideas in all of medicine, in all of pharmacology, in all of pharmacy. Just crazy. And I don't want to necessarily beat up on this idea, except to say that if you're on a statin drug, you're being exploited, you're being taken advantage of, and not only are you having your dollars extracted from you unnecessarily, but even worse, by suppressing the production of this vital molecule, cholesterol, you're preventing the cell's membrane from being constructed in a healthy fashion. There's so many reasons why cell membrane disease or defects in the cell membrane lead to disease, it's hard to even know where to begin. For one thing, there's a very important relationship between cell membranes and cancer. As it turns out, cancer cells have a different type of cell membrane than normal healthy cells. They have a fatty nature that is different from normal cells, and given that the fats in the membrane are so important for what's called cell-to-cell communication, which is a really important idea, it makes sense that cancer, which is a communication idea, a communication disease, if you will, cells don't communicate properly, cells don't talk to each other properly. It makes sense that if you suppress the production of cholesterol, or if you change the production of cholesterol, or if you change your intake of fats, or you have a fat malabsorption problem, you're going to have a cell membrane defect, and ultimately it's going to lead to disease. Many diseases, including cancer. There's a reason why we hit on fat metabolism and fat digestion and fat processing and essential fatty acids and fat intake so much on this program. It is unspeakably important when it comes to health and disease. And considering that 1.5 million people are going to be diagnosed with cancer this year, every year 1.5, 1.6 million people get diagnosed with cancer, and the number is increasing, this is a very important subject. Cells that are cancerous are cells that have defective cell membranes in large part. This means they're going to conduct energy differently, they're going to process information differently, they're going to communicate differently to other cells. And when I say differently, I don't mean in a good way, I mean in a bad way. This breakdown in cell-to-cell communication is one of the most important distinguishing features of cancer cells. The whole notion of cell-to-cell communication is so important. The fact that cells not only talk to each other, but talk to each other with coherence, with a logic that allows, for the most part, 100 trillion of these little things, these microscopic little entities, to live together in a cooperative and harmonious fashion that we human beings could learn a lot from. We can't even figure out how to communicate in a harmonious fashion when there's 3 or 4 of us in a family. But cells have managed to figure out how to do it when there's 100 trillion of them. Really, this whole thing, this whole notion of cell-to-cell communication comes down to something called information. Now, when I say the word information, most of you probably know what I mean. It's something that communicates some kind of message. That's pretty obvious. That's pretty self-explanatory. But as it turns out, information is not all that self-explanatory, at least from a scientific perspective. Researchers and scientists and physicists and academicians and all of these guys have turned information into something called information theory. And information theory, as it turns out, is a really important subject. What exactly information is and how to best take advantage of information, exploit information, has led us to computers and advances in something they call information technology. We're now figuring out that everything is really a type of information. All of reality is a type of information. There's this MIT professor named Seth Lloyd who has a book called Programming the Universe, and he suggests that every little particle in the universe, every little atom, every little quark, every little electron in the universe is really a type of information. And all these little particles are actually talking to each other in constant communication. We know water can contain information. This is how homeopathy works. Water, in many ways, is an information transfer mechanism. All right, hang tight. We will continue this discussion when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 855-660-4261 is our number on the bright side. We'll be back right after this. Okay, let's see. Talking cell-to-cell communication, how cells talk to each other. This should be kind of logical. If cells can't talk to each other correctly, they can't function as a coherent whole. Obviously, our health is going to suffer. Particles, everything in the universe, particles, atoms, molecules, cells, people communicate to each other. And this idea of communication is actually a scientific notion. It's called information theory. There's a lot of scientists who feel these days that everything, even particles and quarks and leptons and electrons, the building blocks of reality, communicate to each other. There's a guy named Seth Lloyd, as I said before our break, who wrote a really interesting and easy to understand, easy to read book called Programming the Universe, where he talks about particles actually being the universe being a type of computer, and the particles in the universe all talking to each other the way little information processing chips talk to each other in our hard drive. So all these ideas about information should really come as no surprise. We've got 100 trillion cells in the body. The outside part of a cell, the membrane of a cell, which is made up of fats, functions, as we've said, as an information processor, in essence a type of communication chip. Biology's most important function, or at least one of, maybe the most important function in all of biology, is information. There couldn't be any life without information, and cells, as the fundamental unit of life, have to have a way of sharing information, of communicating information. So how do they do it? How do cells communicate with each other? Well, obviously they can't talk to each other with words, but they use their own version of words. And just like as I'm speaking, words come from my mouth and they go into your ears to communicate a message, a cell will secrete chemicals. And those chemicals will flow from one cell to another. Chemicals come out of one cell, they go into another cell. Basically, they go into a cell's ears. So a cell, instead of using words, uses chemicals. The chemicals will go to another cell. Instead of that cell having ears, that cell has something called receptors. Receptors are like a cell's ears. Cells talk to each other in this way. One cell will transmit a chemical, another cell will suck that chemical up, or the chemical will get attracted to a cell's ears. We call them receptors, and this is how all these cells, which are separate entities essentially, can function as a coherent whole. For many millions of years, the only things that lived on the earth were cells. It was planet of the cells for 500, 600, 700 million years. That's a long, long time. For nearly some people think for almost 1 billion years, the planet was just made up of cells. And by the way, if you're wondering where the first cells came from, no one really knows where the first cells came from, but the latest thinking is that the cells came from outer space. Scientists actually found meteors that contain little tiny bacterial cells. There were cells in outer space. So this is, by the way, this theory is called panspermia. That's a Greek term for seeds everywhere. Panspermia means seeds everywhere, and the theory is that Earth was first populated by seeds, by cells that came in from outer space. In any case, it took nearly 1 billion years for these cells to coalesce into complexes that were made up of multi-cells or multicellular systems. And in order for that to happen, cells had to be able to communicate. And in order for that to happen, a membrane had to be formed. And the membrane had to be large enough for it to be able to accommodate lots of communication. Cells had to develop this kind of communication and a system in order to be good neighbors with each other, to cooperate with each other, to live in an organized fashion. And the communication strategy they developed was secreting chemicals from one cell to another to describe what one cell needed or what one cell wanted the other cell to do. That's how they talk to each other, via chemicals. And healthy cells, when cells are healthy, they always listen to each other. They're good listeners. They're good communicators and they're good listeners. And in this way, what are really a bunch of little independent beings, little independent entities, can coordinate and can function as a coherent whole. And by the way, one of the ways drugs work, prescription medication work, prescription meds work, is by plugging up a cell's ears. Drugs are like those little rubber buds that you get at the drugstore that block out sound. They keep a cell from getting the message. They keep a cell from listening and responding to messages in the name of suppression or keeping something from happening. Does anybody think that's a smart idea? No, it's a dumb idea. Maybe for emergencies, if you have some kind of emergency, to use a drug that plugs up a cell's ears. But for long-term chronic use, it is stupidity of the ultimate degree. It's nonsensical, and it's just a classic example of those we trust to take care of our health not understanding how the body works. Beta blocker drugs block a type of ear called the beta ear, the beta receptor, and that keeps your heart cells from beating. That's the brilliant doctor strategy for dealing with various circulatory system problems like high blood pressure or heart failure. They'll plug up a cell's ears. Other drugs will plug up the ears on muscle cells to relax the muscles. Other drugs will block the ears on nerve cells to suppress nerve activity. So the cell membrane is composed of fatty substances. The fats in the cell membrane act to stabilize all the watery contents, and they keep the watery contents from dissolving into the outer environment. And because fats can attract and trap large amounts of electrical energy, they allow the membrane to act as a computer chip, an information processor, to hold on to electrical energy, to release electrical energy, to trap electrical energy, to channel electrical energy. And this makes the cell membrane a device that can control the flow of electricity, of electrical energy, selectively. And anytime something controls energy selectively, we have the ability to create an information device, an information processor. This is how the chips work in your iPod or your DVD player, your hard drive. All of these information processing devices work by controlling the movement of energy, and that's how a cell membrane works. And this is all to say that fats are very, very, very important, and so is cholesterol, which acts as a stabilizing force, a hardening agent for the otherwise very loose, oily, fluid-type fat that covers up the membrane. And this accounts for one of the most important side effects associated with statin drugs, and drugs that force your body to stop making cholesterol. No surprise. If you take a statin drug, you're going to likely run into side effects that affect membranes, because cholesterol is a key player in membranes. This is how rhabdomyolysis works. Rhabdomyolysis is a muscle disease that is a classic side effect of statin drugs. Muscle pain. If you have muscle pain after you're taking your statin drugs, chances are your muscle cell membranes are starting to break down. This is the disease, rhabdomyolysis, which is a rare disease unless you're on statin drugs when it becomes much more common. All right, I hope you guys are getting a sense that fats are really, really, really important. We'll continue this discussion We come back from our break, as well as take your phone calls at 855-660-4261. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. All right, we're back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We have lines open for you at 855-660-4261. If you're on hold, hang tight. We'll get to you here in just a moment. If you're interested in purchasing any of the longevity products, including the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Biolumin Nightly Essence, now the new Beyond Organics line, we're going to be talking to Jordan Rubin, whose company it is. Tomorrow we'll talk about the Maker's Diet and the Maker's Diet Workbook, as well as some of Jordan's ideas about health and nutrition, digestive health in particular. Some of you may know that Jordan cured himself of Crohn's disease using probiotics, using some of the digestive strategies we talk about on this program all the time. And we're going to talk to Jordan tomorrow. If you're interested in purchasing any of the products, his Beyond Organic products, you can head over to my website, brightsideben.com, and pull down on the shopping cart, or you can call the Brightside Ben phone team at 866-735-2470. That's 866-735-2470. Our number today is 855-660-4261. Okay, cell-to-cell communication, super, super important. The cell membrane is composed of fat, so take-home message here is work on fat absorption, fat metabolism, fat intake. Get on the ultimate essential fatty acids. Use them with digestive enzymes, especially the ultimate enzymes. Make sure you're using apple cider vinegar after all your meals. You may want to use lecithin as well. Lecithin is wonderful for helping the body absorb fats. Stay away from statin drugs. Statin drugs will suppress fat metabolism because you need cholesterol to make bile, and bile is the body's most important fat. It's the fat metabolizing substance. Bile dissolves fats out of our food, so it makes your fatty vitamins D, E, A, and K and essential fatty acids and various plant nutrients that are fatty more accessible. So make sure you're supporting cholesterol metabolism using bile salts. You can actually buy bile salts. You can buy something called choline, C-H-O-L-I-N-E, which we've talked about on this program. Choline is very helpful for fat metabolism. The amino acid methionine, which we've talked about, that's also helpful for fat metabolism. Pancreatin, the pancreas is, well, next to the liver, the pancreas is probably the most important structure in the body for helping absorb fats. If you have diabetes, if you're pre-diabetic, if you have problems with insulin, if you're producing too much insulin, this can put a burden on the pancreas, and that can suppress or inhibit the body's ability to process fats. You can use pancreatin as a supplement. And of course, just getting on the Healthy Start Pack to get your basic Mighty 90 nutrients is always a good idea. All right, there's so much more to talk about here with the cell membrane. Let's see here. Rhabdomyolysis, that's the muscle disease that's caused by statin drugs, and that is largely a cell membrane disease, disrupted cell membranes in muscles from a lack of cholesterol. The other major side effect of statin drugs is brain health issues, mental health issues, and again, this is largely a membrane phenomena, this time on the membrane of nerve cells. In addition to being super important for the health of the membrane from a structural standpoint, cholesterol also plays another important role in cell membrane health. Cholesterol is important for the structure of cell membrane, but then there's the whole bile component, and this is very, very important when it comes to cell membrane health. Cell membranes being largely composed of fats, essential fatty acids especially. Without bile, without cholesterol, you're not going to be able to make bile. Without bile, you're not going to be able to extract your fats. Without fats, you're not going to be able to make healthy cell membranes. Without healthy cell membranes, you are at risk for all kinds of degenerative diseases. And by the way, this is very, very important to recognize this idea that degenerative diseases are linked to deficiencies in things that we have control of. You know, if you have something like acne or dry skin or high blood pressure, you have to understand that this is a sign that the body as a whole is degenerating. High blood pressure or problem skin or joint pain, these are signs that the entire body is breaking down. That means that if you have something as mild or as seemingly superficial as acne or something as tolerable as joint pain, you're running higher risks for all kinds of degenerative diseases that ultimately are going to be life-threatening. So something that starts off as superficial, if it is a degenerative kind of issue, which most health issues are, the kind of disease that is going to break down over time and you're not going to get better over time, this implies that you're shortening your lifespan and running higher risks for even worse worse degenerative diseases down the road. That's why if you're dealing with anything that's seemingly superficial and tolerable, it is extra super important that you take this really, really seriously. And given that the fact that most of these chronic degenerative diseases have a nutritional deficiency component, if you're dealing with anything that seems tolerable, seems like you can deal with, seems superficial, like you can superficial, and it doesn't seem important, it is important because further on down the road, the body can break down in a much more disastrous and alarming fashion. And because nutritional supplementation is such an important component of all of these problems, it is imperative and vital that you get on a good nutritional supplement program, that you get on the Mighty 90 Essential Nutrients, that you use the Healthy Start Pack, that you start to focus on digestive health so you can absorb all of these nutrients, just to make sure your body has the basic building blocks, the wherewithal to do what it needs to do. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You are listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. 855-660-4261 is our number, and we do have lines open for you. Let's go to Florida and welcome Greg to The Bright Side. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, Ben. I want to thank you for your program, and I just have two questions.
Sure.
One is, have you ever heard of a vitamin company called Melaleuca?
Of course, they've been around forever. They're not a vitamin company, or they may have vitamins. It's a tea tree oil company. Melaleuca is the Latin name for tea tree oil.
This is a whole company that's actually it's run by the Mormons, but they sell vitamins. If you go to the website.
Oh yeah, I know. They have other products for sure, they're basically, aren't they all tea tree, or they have other stuff? No, they have vitamins, proteins, all kinds of stuff. Well, I've been getting this vitamin C pack that they have called Activated C. Okay. And the thing is, it's got a sugar in it, the same sugar that they use for it's a sweetener called. Could you name a couple of the bad sugars? Well, I don't know what you mean by that, but the basic sugars are sucrose, glucose, fructose.
Sucrose, I think is.
Sucrose is table sugar. Sucrose is simply
sucralose.
Oh, sucralose. Oh, they really put sucralose in there?
Yeah, and I called them. I Googled it first. I've been listening to you for a long time, and so I started doing my own little research. And it said this is a bad sugar. I've watched.
It's not a sugar. It's a fake sugar, and it is bad. Right. And most reputable companies have taken sucralose out. Nutritional companies, anyway, have taken sucralose out of their products. Longevity, I think, many years ago used sucralose in some of their products, and we took it out of most of the products years ago. So I'm surprised that Melaleuca would use sucralose. Sucralose is not a good chemical at all. It's a chemical. It's not a sugar. It's a fake sugar. It's a chlorinated sugar. They put the idea being they stick an element of chlorine, an atom of chlorine onto sugar, and then that renders the sugar unavailable to the body. So you get the sweetening effects of the sugar, but you don't get the calories associated with the sugar. Your body, the theory is anyway, your body excretes it. The problem is you're getting an element of chlorine, and that's not necessarily a good thing, and it's a highly processed sugar. Listen, it's very difficult to make a sweetener that is not toxic. And this is why to artificially construct a sweetener. And there's more and more of these artificial sweeteners coming out all the time. So if you really wanted to sweeten your food, there's non-sugar alternatives, or sweeten your supplements if you're a company. There's many non-sugar alternatives, natural non-sugar alternatives that you could use that are plenty sweet. Fructose is one of them, that don't have the chemical toxicity associated with elements like sucralose or aspartame. Hang tight. We got to take a break. Can you hang on? I want to finish this up when we come back. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We're coming back at you with more good health information right after this. Don't touch that dial. All right, we're back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Greg in Florida. We're talking sucralose. So to answer your question, we'll get to your second question here in a sec. We got a full board going on. Greg, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so sucralose is it's a chlorinated version of sugar. It's really not a pleasant molecule from a molecular standpoint. I don't know of any specific studies that talk about there haven't been a lot of studies on sucralose, and I don't know of any specific ones that talk about sucralose toxicity, but there's a lot of anecdotal evidence about problems with sucralose. I wouldn't use it, and most companies have taken it out of their products, most nutritional companies, I should say. It's still found in a lot of processed foods, but most nutritional companies have taken the sucralose out, so I'm surprised that Melaleuca would still leave it in there. We don't use any sucralose in the longevity line of products. We took it out several years ago. So to answer your question, I'd stay away from it. Use stevia, use xylitol. is try to what the best strategy for artificial or non-sugar sweeteners is, in my opinion, is weaning yourself off of the sweet taste. I don't know if you've ever done this, Greg, but if you've ever noticed when you stop eating sugar for a day or two and then you start eating sugar again, the same amount of sweetness that you usually are able to tolerate is too sweet for you. Has that ever, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
It's intensely sweet because our sweet taste gets dumbed down. And that's the reason why we need sweeter and sweeter substances. If we can wean ourselves off of sugar, at least the sweet taste, that's a much more effective strategy than trying to indulge our sweet tooth with artificial sugars or even natural types of sweeteners like honey or fructose or stevia. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
What was your second question?
The second question is, I'd like to make this statement before I ask the next question. Here in Florida, Ben, we have so many sick people. These old people move down here to Florida, and the doctors, I mean, they're just raping these people.
They're making a killing, literally, and I use that term literally. They're making a killing. They're causing a killing and making a killing.
Yeah, it's just sad that people greed. I mean,
it's tragic.
And I want to say your program is the cutting of the next generation, a new generation of people we need in this country. Like you, Alex Jones, and the others that are leading they're trying to establish a new system that works.
I appreciate it. You know, when you see how the sausage is made, so to speak, and I've been seeing how the sausage is made since the early 1980s, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't stand on the rooftops and scream at everybody. There's a better way, and we're being led to slaughter by a medical model that is predatory and exploitative and could care less about me and you or our kids or our family or our families or our loved ones. I'm not talking about doctors specifically, individual doctors, because there's many good ones, but the model itself is predatory and it doesn't care about us except as well as it can extract our monies and our life force from us and then throw us out to die. And it's a terrible, terrible thing. And you're right, Florida is a hotbed, a central hub of this nastiness that we call the medical model. Go ahead real quick, buddy, because I got some more. I was going to say, when I listen to your program and I hear your love for truth, I've got everybody I know listening to your program. Thank you.
I push your program just like you just go. But the next thing is creatine. What is your take on the creatine?
It's awesome stuff. It's not just for bodybuilders, not just for weightlifters. It's for anybody who needs to become anabolic, who needs to build their body up. Heart disease patients, post-surgical patients, elderly folks, people who are trying to recover from some kind of illness or degenerative disease. It's wonderful stuff, but you want to use it with an exercise program because what it does is it helps your body build muscle. It helps your body utilize energy. So it's not going to do you any good. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it won't do you as much good if you're not working out or doing some kind of exercise. But post-workout, man, it's amazing. And I've been using it for many years, for probably going on 20 years now. I've been using creatine on a daily basis or semi-daily basis or semi-regular basis after my workout. Okay, Greg?
Thank you very much.
God bless. Thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words as well. Thank you so much. Okay, Sheila in Wisconsin, what's going on? Welcome to the bright side. Sheila?
Hello?
Hey, Sheila.
Yes,
what's
hi.
up? Hey.
Well, I have two questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
One about me and one about my 6-year-old son. I'm really big into raw food and juicing.
Okay.
But I've noticed I'm 41 years old and I'm still having some health issues.
Okay.
The biggest one I have is about a year ago until now. I've noticed I have this chronic itch on the back left shoulder blade, but there's no rash, there's no pimple.
Okay, got it. Itching is always, just to cut to the chase here, my dear, first of all, this idea of raw foods is a good idea, but you don't want to subsist on them because you do need to extract some of the nutrients from cooking helps you extract certain nutrients. Love raw foods, love veggies, but it's not something that you want to do 100%. And you also have to be careful.
Yeah, not 100%.
Right, about 60%, 70% or so. But in any case, to answer your question, first of all, I should also tell you that sometimes we can react to vegetables. A lot of folks, and I'm not saying this is you, Sheila, but a lot of people feel like vegetables are benign and you can eat as many as you want, and if you have a health problem, it can't be the foods you're eating because you only eat vegetables. Well, vegetables contain toxins that we can react to. They can be difficult to process, difficult to digest. So you got to be careful with vegetables too. Not just you can't just assume that veggies are just because they're we have this warm fuzzy feeling about them that they're completely benign. Chronic itching, any kind of itching, always associated with an activated immune system. There's certain clues that can tell you that the body is in a defensive posture, that it's in a defensive mode. And itching is a classic sign of this. So is redness. Anytime you see redness or itching, think immune system. Anytime you have an immune reaction, that means the body is defending itself. And so when there's a defensive a reaction, that means there's an offending agent. Does that make sense? If there's a defensive response, there's an offending agent, right? So we have to figure out what is the offending agent. Well, I know I've said this so many times, and I hope you don't take this, don't get offended that I'm going to repeat myself here, but there's only 3 ways you can have an offending agent that initiates a defensive response. You can either be injecting something directly into your blood. Well, that's not going to happen. You can, unless you're an IV drug user, I don't think you are, right? So you're not injecting it. You could be breathing it. Well, that happens occasionally, but typically you're not going to be breathing enough to cause some kind of reaction, although it can happen. But for the most part, most offending agents enter into the body through the digestive system, through food, through what we eat. So first thing, clear the digestive system. It's like I said before. If the wife is killed or the husband is killed, who do they go to? They go to the husband or they go to the wife. They go to the spouse. Doesn't mean the spouse did it, but the spouse is the most likely suspect. Likewise with the digestive system. If you have an immune reaction, the digestive system, either problems processing or problem foods, is the most likely suspect. So link your itching to foods. And it's probably, if you've had it long term, it's probably a favorite food or it's something you're doing all the time. So that's a little clue for you. If you probably have an idea right away. So what you want to do if you really want a good test is fast for a day. Don't eat for a whole day. What you'll probably notice is your itching goes away. All right? Maybe for 2 days. Then start to reintroduce foods beginning with your favorite food and eat it all day. So you'll have a fun day. You'll get to eat your favorite food all day and watch what happens. If you're okay, you don't have any itching response, then you're probably good with that food. Take another day off from food, and then on the next day, do it again. You follow what I'm saying? Let your body be a laboratory and test it out using the scientific method, doing a controlled experiment, trying a variable, seeing what happens, removing that variable, seeing if you get better, etc. Be a scientist with your body. We don't need doctors. We don't need allergy testing. And Sheila, there's a doctor around the corner who will charge you for an allergy test. And Quest Diagnostics, who does most of the allergy testing in this country, is a multi-billion-dollar company because doctors love allergy testing. Save your money, spend it on nutritional supplements, go take a vacation, and test yourself. Save your money and do your own allergy testing. That's what I recommend, and it does sound like an allergic reaction.
I do have severe summer allergies, and I'm starting to get them now, and I thought I had them really bad. I've had them really bad since I was 26, and I'm 41 now, and I'm assuming there's some kind of candida or some issue I need to get rid of.
Could be. It could be something called immune load, where the straw that breaks the camel's back is the pollen in the air, and you're building up straws with something you're eating. By the way, probiotics can be very helpful as well, so the Biolumin Nightly Essence might be very important for you, and digestive enzymes too. Biolumin Nightly Essence and digestive enzymes, and the Z Radical. All these give you some digestive support. All right, I got to take one more call if I can. Is that okay? You all good, Sheila?
Well, I had one about my son, and he had little tiny bumps all over his body, and I thought maybe you said something about vitamin A.
Vitamin A, yes. Vitamin A deficiency can do it. I always think of vitamin A deficiency. It could also be fat metabolism, processing fats. And again, if there's any redness associated with the bumps, then you want to look to no redness, just hard bumps?
No. Just bumps that you can't even see unless you touch them. They're white. They're almost like pimples, but they're hard, and they...
Vitamin A.
Yeah.
And also fat metabolism. He may not be processing vitamin A.
Okay, so how do I fix that? Do you have
bile salt? I'm going to give you a bunch of nutrients for fat metabolism, okay? And listen tomorrow because we'll continue talking about this. Vitamin A, yes, 20,000 international units. Healthy Start Pack. The ultimate enzymes after meals, apple cider vinegar after meals. Go get something called lecithin, Lecithin. Use a teaspoonful of lecithin in water after meals, and pancreatin enzymes as well. Those all help with fat metabolism. And that's all the time we have. I'm so sorry, Sheila. And if I left you on hold again, I apologize. You got to call in earlier so we can get to all our calls. All right, tomorrow we're going to talk to Jordan Rubin about Beyond Organics, and we'll also talk digestive health and wellness. If you have any digestive issues, you're going to want to tune in tomorrow. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have yourselves a wonderful, beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.